Well, good evening, everyone. Well, good afternoon. I have rushed us into evening, but good afternoon, everyone. I am Honorable Valencia Stovall, and you are listening in on Issues and Answers. And today, our topic is unemployment claims in Georgia and the women behind the movement. Today is April the 19th. We're on Monday, April the 19th. And you're listening to the new WCEG network, WCEG Talk Radio, or you can watch us live on Smart TV, YouTube, on WCEG Network. We're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Instagram at WCEG _ talk _ radio and WCEG Network. And I must give this disclaimer. The topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests and not of WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. Now, I want to, as I do every time I start my show, I take a moment to remember those who are no longer with us, and we definitely send our prayers to their families. Also to my family, we lost two family members this week or last week. Also appreciation to those who continue to be on the front line to keep us safe and ensuring we are healthy and our immediate needs are met. We salute each of you. Well, let's jump right into our show and discussion for today. We have as our special guest this afternoon, I call them the super women of the House, and that's the Georgia House of Representatives. And we have joining us today, we have first our chair of the Clayton County Delegation, Chairwoman Rhonda Burnough of District 77. She is, her area she covers in Clayton County are Morrow, Jonesboro, Riverdale, and unincorporated Riverdale. And she's been serving since being sworn in since 2017. Next, we have Representative Viola Davis. And Representative Davis has been serving since 2019, and she represents in DeKalb County, Stone Mountain, and Tucker. Next, we have Representative Kim Schofield, keeping it moving. She's been serving since 2017, and she represents, y'all hold on, there's a lot to say on this part where she represents in Fulton and Clayton, but the cities of Hapeville, Southeast Atlanta, College Park, East Point, and Forest Park. And last but definitely not least on for our guest today is Representative Sandra G. Scott of District 76. And she's been serving since 2011, and she represents the cities of Forest Park, Rex, Ellenwood, Morrow, Lake City, and Conley. So she had a handful too, I had to say as well. Well, welcome, ladies, to Issues and Answers with yours truly, Honorable Valencia Stovall. Well, we're going to get right into asking questions. You know, this topic of dealing with unemployment claims has been an issue for a very, very, very long time. And because we've been dealing with it since I would say, since the pandemic started. And I was trying to look back at the schedule and look at emails. I was looking at an actual email when we were sending out things with the Georgia Coalition to Save Lives. I pulled up some emails from that. Saw one of the other representatives had sent, we all signed on a letter that was sent to Commissioner Butler about the unemployment claims early on. That was in April when that letter went out. And so I have a few questions just to kind of give some people some background information. At the time when the unemployment claims and everything was going on with the pandemic, I was still an elected official, so I was able to kind of be on the ground floor in the beginning. And audience, definitely feel free to enter any questions or comments you might have in the comment box. And if we have time, we'll definitely go over those questions and actually make the comments. So I know, ladies, you've gotten a chance to breathe a little bit. since session is over with. But the unemployment claims issue seems to not be going anywhere. And I miss serving, of course, but I definitely don't miss all the fight that y'all had to go through through a session. So just to give a little bit more background information, then I'll bring you all in with your comments. The Department of Labor Commissioner is Mark Butler, who was elected to serve as in a 4-year capacity, and he's a statewide elected official. And his seat will be coming up for re-election next year in 2022. And I know there's some people already have put their hats in the ring for running. And remember, and we need all Georgians and voters to remember that election is coming up, and especially if you have not gotten your unemployment claims adjusted. This is one reason to make sure you go and vote. And so the legislators' offices, our offices were flooded with calls and emails from people who filed their claims, or the employer had filed claims, but nothing had been processed. And I want to start my first question out with Representative Scott, because I know for me, in my opinion, she kind of led that charge, because I remember going with her to the Clayton County Unemployment Office. So Representative Scott, why did you see the need to get involved at the level you did with the unemployment claims in Georgia? And this is going to be a question that I want all my guests to answer. Starting with Representative Scott, then Representative Schofield, Representative Davis, and then we'll end it off with Chair Burnough. So go ahead, Representative Scott, and welcome again.
Good afternoon, Representative Sandra G. Scott. The reason that I got involved with the Department of Labor inability to pay claims to people that had worked for their claims was because when your constituents call you and you're getting emails from them and they're coming in day after day after day, and they're telling you that we cannot get an answer. We cannot get an answer. And that's, you hear that constantly. And when it started out, the pandemic started and things started to shut down, we constantly heard this over and over and over again. So I decided that we had to do something. We could not sit back and continue to hear people cries that they're not receiving their unemployment. We even tried to contact Mark Butler ourselves to no avail. Then they started sending, put it in the hands of our administrative assistants to take the information and send it over to the Department of Labor, and they wouldn't even answer them. We were just getting nothing. We gave you help, and you didn't even respond to the help that we had given you. No communication whatsoever. And we know that constituents deserve to be heard. If nothing else, just pick up the phone and answer the question. So we just had gotten to a tipping point, and we had started this COVID-19 team. And I just told them one day, you know what? If they don't do anything and no one does anything, on Monday, I'm gonna be having the press conference at the unemployment office. And I can say everybody joined in, all of these ladies joined in, and we had the press conference. And we've been going since, because we cannot stop until everyone is paid their unemployment. And I'm going to end it right there, because I know they have a lot to say about this, because we have done so much, but we still have work to do.
All right, thank you, Representative Scott, for definitely, a big hats off to you for leading the charge. Because I remember you said, I contacted everybody, and if I have to stand by myself, I'll be at the unemployment office by myself. And the things that we saw at the unemployment office, of course, the information they got out was not the correct information. They told the people that the office was going to open, and that was not what the press release had said. So you had people lined up, wrapped around the building, thinking they were going to be able to get into the unemployment office. So next we'll hear from Representative Davis. I know that's the paper lady. I call her the paper and statistics lady out of the group. So Representative Davis, definitely tell us, why did you see the need to get involved like you did?
Well, first, good afternoon, and I want to thank you for inviting us. I want to commend the Honorable Valencia Stovall for organizing and presenting this issue. involving the Department of Labor. The reason that I was involved with this issue dealing with the unemployment claims was motivated by the actions of my colleagues, particularly Representative Kim Schofield and Representatives Sandra Scott. They organized a series of press conferences that were happening pretty much throughout Georgia to deal with the issue of the large backlog of unemployment claims with the Georgia Department of Labor. I went a step further by writing open records requests because a lot of the information that the commissioner presented in his press releases had a number of discrepancies that we felt needed to be addressed. So when I wrote the first open records, he wouldn't even answer it. So I went ahead and wrote a second one, this time with my colleagues co-signing on to the second release. Still, we've had a number of problems obtaining just basic information. Like we wanted to know how many of the claims that were valid claims he processed compared to how many he paid partially and which ones he paid in full. Well, this is just an example of one of a number of questions that I presented in a number of open records requests, and I'm going to cut it off there because my involvement was primarily in the research department of trying to get more information and see through this whole discrepancies with his press releases.
Oh, thank you so very much. And for those who might not understand about open records requests, that's what you have, that's your power you have as a citizen to be able to request any information from any state or local agency. If it's a public agency, and even if it's a private nonprofit, if they receive at least, I think it's 37% or so from that are public funds, then they have to comply with the open records request. And so it is real simple to do. Sometimes you do get to run around from those departments. And I have sent several them out, even to my local government, and they gave me to run around. So it doesn't matter that we serve as elected officials, we still get to run around. That's why we have the power of legislation. And you'll hear us talk about that a little bit later. Representative Schofield, keeping it moving. I know you were right in there with Representative Scott with those setting up those meetings across the state at the unemployment offices. But let us know, why did you decide to get involved at the level? See, the difference, everybody, is you have elected officials that say, hey, yeah, I support. Then you have other elected officials say, I support, but it's time to do something about it. So that's why I'm asking them why they decide to get involved at the level that they got involved with hey, we're going to do something about it.
Thank you, Honorable Valencia Stovall, for having us here today. And thank you to my colleagues. And I'm State Representative Kim Schofield. And yes, the reason why I got involved is that you had the largest employment system across the state that was dysfunctional. And it wasn't just dysfunctional, it was not being transparent and getting the people the benefits that they worked and deserved because they lost their job through no fault of their own. So you now have leadership that's not being responsive. You have constituents or people that are being impacted. And in between, you have no one taking holding accountability for what's being done. So collectively, we came together and we knew that we had to take some kind of action. In the beginning, we didn't know what that action was other than to hear the stories. But the more we heard the stories, the more we knew what was consistent was that the Department of Labor failed to do its job. And as Representative Davis began to do a deeper dive in research, we found that there were just so many other problems within that system and that structure. And what motivated me was just a simple thing that if my car broke down, I wouldn't necessarily call a legislator for my car to be fixed. What I would call is a mechanic and expect for the mechanic to answer me and give me the answers and direction I needed for my car to be fixed and repaired. Here you have a Department of Labor asking the people to call our offices and contact their legislator, where none of us on this phone processed an unemployment claim a day in our lives. And so when I don't know, I go to the person whose responsibility it is to give an answer. And when we as legislators called Department of Labor, they were shifting the burden and the responsibility on someone other than the people that should be answering. Now, mind you, this was a COVID, and none of us expected how every system was going to handle and be impacted. But when you have a leader and an employer that is not doing due diligence to make sure that you're responding at a baseline level of just answering the phone, and we came in with solutions, not just addressing your problem, but we offered solutions to call center and making sure that, you know, measures were in place, and we get shut down. We are the people's voice. And so I stepped in with my colleagues because someone had to be held accountable. When they don't do their job, you don't have somebody else call another person, tell them to do their job. I'm not a mechanic. I don't understand how to process unemployment claims. Neither did my staff. But instead of us stepping down, we stepped up.
Thank you so very much, Representative Schofield. And you're right. We're all elected to do a job. And the commissioner for DOL was elected to do a job, which was an executive job to oversee. And so in that, even at some point, you have to take ownership that some things went wrong, and now let me figure out how to make it right. Next, we'll hear from Representative Chairwoman Burnough.
Thank you, Honorable Valencia Stovall, for allowing us to have this opportunity. I'm just going to go back a little bit further. In the beginning, we met with Commissioner Butler, and he told us that not to worry, that Georgia had everything together. It wasn't going to be a problem, that Georgia was better than any other state, and that everybody would get paid. So we trusted him at his word. Then we had a few other meetings with him, and he assured us then. And it wasn't until I actually went to the press conference in Clayton County. And when I saw all those people in line, and I can remember a gentleman, when I was parking my car, he said, "You can't park here, you're gonna have to go to the back of the line." And I walked to see how many people were in that line. And that was very emotional for me, because these people, they just wanted a basic answer. And these were people who worked 2 and 3 jobs. These were people that had never filed for unemployment. So they didn't have any idea. All they did was they trusted the system, and they expected the system to work for them. And when they started talking to us and telling us their stories, I mean, you couldn't help but feel for them. And the fact that the doors were locked and they could get no answer. And so that's what made me want to be involved, because you get the emails, but when you're actually out there and you're talking to people, and as we went from that week from one part of the metro area to the other, and also they went to Macon, and you're hearing the same story, then you know that that's a problem, because it was consistent. It was not just say like people in Clayton County weren't getting service, but nobody was getting service. And the one thing we want, even though we represent the metro area, but we were working for everybody in the state of Georgia to make sure that everybody would get their unemployment. And we still get people talking to us. And so even though it's almost been a year since we started, those issues are still there. There still is nobody for them to talk to. And at this point, if, as Representative Sandra G. Scott says, if the schools are open, then it's time to open up the entire state. The governor said the state is open, we'll open all the offices, because a lot of these issues could be resolved if those individuals went to their particular unemployment office, were able to say what was wrong, and they met with somebody personally. A lot of the issues would be resolved in 5 or 10 minutes. But the fact that he is not open, they still don't have any place to go to. I think he said the other day that he opens up his call center between 9 and 10, and he gets 15% of the people, which leaves about another 60,000 people that still don't get their answer. And so we're still getting, and people are desperate, and I can understand that. And even though they've gotten the relief from the federal government, but they still have not recouped, and they've lost so much in the interim. So that was my initial, is just to want to help those individuals that we met. And then of course, everybody that has since then has been sending us emails about their problem. And because he absolutely refuses to take any of our suggestions.
Thank you, Representative Burnough, Chair Burnough. And you're right, it's very frustrating. As legislators, you're elected to come up with solutions. And you expect the same level of courtesy from your colleagues or co-elected officials, no matter whether they're statewide like the governor or the commissioner, Department of Labor commissioner or not. And so when you expect those type of things to happen, and not get a response, and it's like, we want to come up with a solution. The people are crying, and then to be able to put the extra burden on the administrative assistants, because I know when I was there, my administrative assistant, was getting a lot of calls. So you got to think about this to the general public, so you all know. Our administrative assistant, they're using 7, maybe 8, maybe 5 to 7 people, other legislators in the office. And you have one person that's directing or kind of keeping up with all of our correspondence. Now, she has enough dealing with stuff that didn't have nothing to do with unemployment claims, he or she. And now you're asking them to create an Excel spreadsheet, put all these people's personal information into that spreadsheet, keep up with contacting or talking with the DOL personnel, along with, that's too much. That, like they said, that's above people's pay grade, because that was above the pay grade. And then when you have a commissioner who had an opportunity when legislative sessions, before they started with the budget hearings. So you all know there are two budgets that are passed during session. There's the amended budget, which is the first budget passed, and then before session ends, it's the new fiscal year budget. Neither of those budget hearings, and you all correct me if I'm wrong from what I read, he did not come in and request any additional funding. I think I even read it in an article in the Georgia Recorder that says the Commissioner Butler said he didn't need any additional state aid, and that he also failed to submit a requested document from the state auditor, for which there was a threat to the state's AAA bond rating. And so for those who might not understand, it's all about the money. So in the state of Georgia, we have a high bond rating, which allows us to have low interest when it comes down to the bonds that we need to process for any kind of construction, anything we're doing across the state. And when that rating is threatened, that means there's more money to taxpayers you're going to end up having to pay. So because the state auditor does an audit on every state department, and every local government has to submit audits in. So don't ever think that they don't have to submit them in. So what happened when they requested, when I said the state auditor requested from the commissioner to submit in his documents that they requested, he didn't turn them in. And so we're going to get to talking about what it really ended up happening, why this legislation was really end up passing. We know some other things going on, but we're going to get into that legislation that ended up passing on the last day of legislative session. And one other thing I did want to say, Chair Burnough brought up a point about weekly phone calls. So all of us as legislators were on the phone call on the House and the Senate with the governor's liaison. So every week when COVID got started, we were on there listening to what all the departments were doing. And like she said, he said clearly, I wrote down the notes, we don't have any problems. Georgia's number one. We have this new technology that we're using, and we're going to have other states to be contacting us about how we're able to process all these claims. So like Chair Burnough said, we said, okay, that's good. Well, we're going to be on top. All right, Georgia, good. And then all of a sudden, we start getting inundated with phone calls. So somebody didn't tell the whole truth. I won't say who it is, but you can look at it. It's in the proof is in the pudding. And that pudding is falling over there in the Department of Labor office in that lab, because we should not have had to handle that. And then if you needed some more help, you had other staff, people that were unemployed, you could have brought in and hired to be able to help with that. So I want to ask you all next, what changes did you all see after you got involved? Some of you all kind of mentioned a little bit of those changes. And if you want to go in and even start talking a little bit about the SB or Senate Bill 156, you can. So I'll start off with Representative Davis with that question. What are some of the changes you saw after you got involved? And also what led to the involvement into SB 156?
Well, in order to really go, can you hear me? Okay. In order to go into what changes happened, we have to reflect over the fact that we did everything we could to try and operate within the system. When we first had the press conferences, we asked for 4 things. We asked for an extension of the moratorium on evictions and stop the cutoff of utilities. We asked for them to prioritize and process the backlog. We requested a call center. We asked them to hire and train more staff. Now, that was totally ignored. In October the 25th, we went as far as to have a conference to talk about the backlog. We had another meeting on the call center, demanding a call center December the 4th. December the 21st, we held a hearing where we had people come out and tell some of the problems. I mean, it was heartbreaking, some of the stories that people would tell us. And then again, we asked for an investigation, a congressional investigation, not once, but twice, December the 22nd, and again on February the 8th. I take pride in the fact in knowing that we did get the Georgia Democratic Congressional Delegation to send a letter demanding a federal inspector general to investigate the delays in processing the unemployment benefit claims. Now, a lot of these claims were valid claims. Sometimes he'll get on TV and try and make it look like we're asking him to pay invalid claims. That's not true. We're asking him to do his job. When you have 50 to over 100,000 valid claims going unpaid or partially paid, where people would get 1 to 3 payments and then they get cut off, that was unacceptable. So our delegation wrote a letter to Larry Turner, the acting inspector general of the United States Department of Labor. And this is the quote of that letter. It said, members of the Georgia General Assembly have contacted our office about the ongoing issues, citing a lack of transparency, discrepancies in the data reported in press releases and on the website, and violations of the federal statute requiring timely payment. So we are requesting that your office perform a true audit in Georgia Department of Labor unemployment insurance claims to look into the processing as well as the payment system. I would like to say that this is the first time such a drastic change, such a drastic action has been requested and taken by that department. And I take pride in working with these legislators to move that action forward.
Thank you so very much, Representative Davis, for even giving us that background information, because like you said, we saw him constantly, and I laugh because I saw him constantly, probably more on the news media defending something about, instead of taking ownership that you didn't do your job or it was overwhelming, let me go and ask for help. But instead of that, he attacked you all as ladies. I read a lot of articles saying that you all were trying to make it political. How is it political? Do your job. That's all we want you to do, is do your job. When you look at how many people were facing evictions because of not being able to pay their rent, not being able to pay their mortgage, needing food, needing to be able to pay their regular utilities, being able to pay their car insurance, car notes, all of those things that they were used to being able to pay. And a lot of them were first-time filers with unemployment. And even though you had the employers were filing, which we had heard on the call, that all the employers were supposed to file, that was supposed to make the process a lot easier, but that was not the case in many cases. So it was a lot of stuff that was going on. And at the end of the day, you as the citizens who needed those claims to be paid were not getting the service that you were expecting from that department today to happen. Next, let's hear from Representative Scott when it comes to some things that you saw happen, and also even kind of we'll come back around to SB 156.
Okay, I think Representative Davis have spoken on most of it, but the fact is, we wrote letters to the governor, to the attorney general, and we did not hear back from not one of them. They did not answer our call. And all we trying to do was to get the people paid their unemployment, because these people have worked and through no fault of their own has been laid off, and they will do unemployment benefits. And so again, Representative Viola have really told you the story of how we got from here to there. But I just wanted to highlight that we did write the governor, we did write the attorney general, and neither of them responded. And so that's where we left off. And I'll let someone else go on from there, because I think that we did our due diligence of using the chain of command, asking for help for our constituents.
Okay, Representative Schofield, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so, again, just to add on to what my colleagues have said, we know that we are legislators. And we know during the COVID time, we were not physically in a building to legislate, but we knew that at some time you have to become advocates for those who can't fight for themselves. There was a large group of people, unemployed people on Facebook. That group had about, and they were really up under Atlanta Jobs for Justice and other areas and entities that dealt with unemployed workers. And that group had about 15,000 people within that Facebook group. And we were constantly in contact with the group, hearing the stories over and over again. Interestingly enough, what we found out is that there was already in statute an advisory council that should have provided oversight to the Department of Labor that was never enacted when Mark Buckler was in office. And so while, you said, you made a comment about, you heard us on the news and the personal attacks. Well, a hit dog will holler. And he began to squeal and holler like a pig. And we knew that, again, this wasn't it was COVID, but there was some intentionality behind that, because the people in the claims that were not being paid, a lot of them were looking like you and I. And a lot of these claims that were getting paid by colleagues within the General Assembly, but there were certain one of our claims that were not being paid. And so he made it political when you didn't A, answer your phone and you called us. B, you attacked us for trying to get the answers that we needed to help our constituents. The third thing was you paying other people's claims that don't look like you and I, but yet the bulk of the calls and the people are coming from all across the state. So, at some point you have to look at this. We're asking for help. We had no choice but to step up and do with that which others would not do. And so we took personal hits on that. And it's not a hit because it was bad. It was the hit because we were doing the right things for our constituents. And moving it forward, you said, what changed? Well, what changed was that we got the attention of everybody who needed to wake up and realize he never asked for help. He refused the help he was given. People are suffering, and the call center is still not, and the offices are still not open today. So yeah, we got loud, and we continue to get louder until we get this issue resolved.
Thank you. And it is said that I think one of the things I constantly heard during session was the schools could open up, So why can't those unemployment offices be open as well? We have our most vulnerable, which are our children, but when we have the adults that we could put in the PPE, those preventions, the CDC, what they require, it was easy to be able to accommodate that. And then even I think when you all talked about the call center, even doing a Zoom call center, I think I read in one of the notes as well. And then when you think about it, some people will have problems with internet access. So even in those rural areas where you tell them to go online, send an email or whatever, those were challenges in those particular areas that was not even considered. You know, in the metro, we were okay because we probably go to the parking lot of one of the restaurants or the library. But you think about rural Georgia, where they might not have that access. And you talking about people that really, everybody need money, but when you start looking at the rural area, and because as a state, we've had such a huge focus on rural development, everybody was suffering across the board. So I appreciate that, Representative Schofield, for bringing it up. Representative Burnough, Chair Burnough, what would you like to add to that conversation about what did you see changes and as we even get ready to start talking about this Senate Bill 156?
One of the biggest change was, as everybody has said, was the fact that he had to come out and start to answer questions. And so, but he spent his time always talking about either something that we said wasn't right or wrong, but he never came out and said, I am now committed that I'm going to help the people of Georgia. That never came from him. And so one of the other things that we were able to do, we had been meeting with different groups, and we had a lawyer, and we were trying to get a writ of mandamus. And that particular lawyer, which we understand, he had a fee, and we didn't have any money that we could pay him. So one of our new representatives, who's a lawyer, helped us with that. So we are filing the writ of mandamus. But, you know, one of the things is that even with all the different organizations that were helping us, where somebody might say, well, I was able to get the person their back money, but by that time they had lost everything. So therefore they had to either start. And one of the other things I think Representative Schofield always talks about this is their credit. You know, their credit was attacked, therefore they couldn't go and get, you know, maybe move someplace else. And because unemployment is not considered as an income. And so we know that as sporadic as it is, you know, you might get paid for 2 months and then you wouldn't. And the most disheartening thing was that I can remember when we were in Cobb County, and we were talking, and a lady said, well, you all can't do anything. And so you would think that that as legislators and talking to one elected official to another, and we couldn't do anything because he was elected. And if you notice and paid any attention to the legislation now, where from the special election integrity, where they removed some of the power from the Secretary of State, but the governor never did anything with Mark Butler. He's never even mentioned Mark Butler's name. And anybody that watched all the COVID press conferences he did, he never once addressed the fact of all these people who were unemployed and had not received their unemployment. And so when they start to talk about that bill, we'll see what was important to him. It was not the people, it was what the loss was for the state of Georgia.
And that is something else, and I'm glad you brought that up, Chair Burnough, is that, you know, with all of the election issues that were going on, there was an attack on the Secretary of State. And then, like you said, the recent bill removed some of his power as supposed to be over the state election board and having a vote, but now he doesn't. So to me, that opens up a lot. Okay, well, why you all didn't do anything with the Department of Labor? Because when you look at the labor department in our state, it's the economic driver. You can't open back up a state if the people don't have jobs to go to. And if people have worked on jobs, it is known and supposed to be, it's like a contract. I'm going to work. If I can't go to work, the company has paid into a huge pot of money for me to be able to have my claim issued and being able to be settled. And when you look at it being a pandemic, there were a lot of things that were uncertain and unknown. And for people to have to suffer, not just with trying to figure out whether I can go outside or not, but now I got to worry about how I'm gonna pay my bills, how my family is gonna survive. that was just too much, especially when the money was there. It's different if they say, oh, we don't have no money to pay the claims, but the money was there. It just needed someone that had a heart to do what they were elected to do in order for them to be able to process those claims and make the hard decision and get the help. It's okay to ask for help when you need it, especially in the time of servicing those particular claims. I saw the other day on Channel 36, might have been a couple of days ago, they had a special talking about the unemployment claims that weren't processed. And they showed this one lady, Ms. Jones, who had worked 1,041 hours overtime. And then they showed this whole list of all these people working overtime. Why are they working overtime? You can hire more people for the amount of money you're paying overtime. Last time I checked, overtime is time and a half. So you get paid way more money. You burning the people out. And even when some of them were trying to do what's right, internally we heard that they were being fired, losing their jobs for really processing some of the claims that were going on. Another thing I wanted to mention, and I'll get you all's comment on this, is there were 25,000 new claims each week that end up coming up to be, that was filed. 20 billion in 1 year paid out in unemployment claims. And then, of course, I think Representative Schofield mentioned about he's taking 10 to 15% of the calls every day. That leaves about 85% of people that don't know anything. And then last, he did blame Congress and said Congress put 85% of the work on the Department of Labor. I thought that was funny because I don't remember him saying anything when we had a different president in office was saying anything about, President Trump is in office, and the federal government put this 85%. So 85% to me, it don't matter who is in the office. It's still the federal government. So, there's a lot of things that happen, you all as the audience, when there are choice of words, and you have to pay attention to what words are used and when those words are being used. So we move forward because we have about 18 more minutes for this particular conversation, and we're getting a lot of good information. If you all are listening in, you listen to WCEG Talk Radio Issues and Answers with myself, Honorable Valencia Stovall, as your host. We're joined by Representative Viola Davis, State Representative Sandra G. Scott. I love to say that middle initial. Representative Kim Schofield, Chairwoman Rhonda Burnough, who are joining me, and I call them the super women of the House. But I know you all didn't do it by yourselves, and there are some others who were on the front line with you all that I was able to bring on the call today. And I want to know, I don't know who want to jump in and just share their names of those others who was on the front line. I know everybody did some work, but then you had some others that were constantly on the call. I know a couple of calls that I was on. So I don't know if it's Sandra or Burnough or Schofield, whichever one of you all want to tell who those other individuals were.
Go ahead, Kim.
I was tossing it to you, Sandra. So we do, at the appropriate time, we had Representative Donna McLeod was on the front line with us. We had Representative William Bodie that was on the front line with us on several of the press conferences. We had Representative Deborah Bazemore that came in, and so but the team that you see here are the team that stayed faithful. I mean, even with you being elected, you were at Honorable Valencia Stovall. You were at the forefront for all of us. So yes, everybody had a part to play. We had legislators across the state when we came to Macon, and that if it was in your district at your Department of Labor office, then we had the legislators that represented in that area. This wasn't an issue of who led the charge. This is an issue of consistency and perseverance. This wasn't a one and done. So we on this call stayed faithful and will continue to stay faithful. Whip David Wilkerson was the one that really helped us and met with us and started working on. He had a piece of legislation that's included in Senate Bill 156. But most of us on this call today wrote legislation to help address some of the unemployment issues. My bill, HB 808, is really the bill that addresses the advisory board to make sure that we have the right people at the table, whether it be labor, business, citizens, unemployed workers. We want to make sure that we have full coverage. So yes, we had a team of people, but the core people that stayed to get it done are the ones that you see in front of you.
And also I want to shout out the minority leader, James Beverly. Because I know at times he was the only male on the call and he would joke about that. So we definitely appreciate Minority Leader James Beverly for also, helping the women to be able to fight the good fight when it comes down to those claims. I had one comment and we're going to be wrapping up probably in about 4 minutes, but I do want to ask, even if it's just one person, to talk about Senate Bill 156. I know it was designed to be able to, and it started in the Senate, so you all, when you hear Senate Bill, it was designed to create a chief labor officer. Did I agree totally with the bill? No, but I understood why, sometimes you all who don't know how it works down at the state capitol, sometimes you don't get 100% of what you want. And so a lot of times you have to compromise, but there's a limit to compromise as well. Sometimes some compromise is not good and you have to just say, I'm just not going to support the bill. But if you find some stuff in there that you can at least breathe a little bit on, that can give you one step, and then you say, okay, next session, we're going to go and work on the next step. And so that's my belief that what happened with Senate Bill 156. One person asked, do you know roughly when people would get their unemployment claims? And I can help y'all with that. The answer is no, you don't know. That's why they're continuing to fight this fight. What we can recommend to you all who are listening, continue to contact your state legislators, continue to contact the Commissioner Butler's office, continue to contact the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Speaker of the House. You all have to worry, and worry again. And it's unfortunate. I know that someone had mentioned about a class action suit. I know that legal aid has been working. Also, Atlanta Volunteer Lawyers Foundation is working. So you all can definitely reach out to them. So I don't know who wants to round us up in about 3 minutes or 4 minutes, talking just as briefly about SB 156.
Viola.
I think it's interesting that Representative Sandra G. Scott is the person directing who's going to be speaking. But when it comes to Senate Bill 156, let me tell you, it went through a number of changes. At one point, the commissioner wanted to have access to having, was it law enforcement officers, investigators, where he could go after people. And we were like, this is ridiculous. If you're not going to hire some people to answer the phone, the last thing we need to give you is some investigators to be going after people. But Senate Bill 156 appoints an chief labor officer who will provide oversight and accurate reports on the unemployment insurance data to address unpaid, unprocessed, and appeals as far as the claims. It also is supposed to sunset, I believe it was June of 2022, and it allows the legislators to access and update on unemployment insurance claims, because a lot of times when we would put the claims in and send them over on a spreadsheet, we had a problem getting updates so that we could follow up with our constituents. Now, the commissioner has an obligation from the part that was included on legislation drafted by Whip Wilkerson, that he has to now give a report to certain members of the legislature dealing with claims, the number of claims, how many have been paid, how many have been processed. But this is just to give you an overview of Senate Bill 156. They did not want to take over his job, but they wanted to provide some additional help, especially dealing with the reports, because if those reports are not on time, it can damage the bond rating of the state. If you have any other questions, somebody can add it if I left something out.
I do have a question. I saw also want everyone to know that the bill has not been signed into law, so it's still on the governor's desk. And let me tell y'all some a little background. Y'all know I like to give y'all the inside when you listen in on me. Is that 3 ways that a bill can become law or not become law. The governor can sign the bill, or it can sit on his desk. His or her way, right? That's his. So sit on his desk for 40 days, and he cannot do anything, and it becomes law. Or he can veto it, which means it does not become law. And so there are a lot of things that happened since the session ended. What was March the 31st, I think. So 40 days after that, and it's not, you got to count the weekends and everything. It's not Monday through Friday days. So those 40 days are running up. And so I've seen the time that I've been there in those 8 years where you thinking the bill is clear and somebody's gotten behind closed doors and start talking in the governor's ear, and he would end up vetoing a bill. And not just him, the current governor, I've seen it, the previous governor as well, where bills have been vetoed. So it's not a done deal. It's only a done deal once he signs it. And even if, say for instance, a real controversial bill, I don't see this happening, but the legislative body can go back into session and override the veto with 2/3 vote. And so that means you have to have Republicans and Democrats to agree to override the bill. And so I just wanted to give y'all that little bit of tidbit of information. The correction was the sunset of SB 156 is December 2022. And
yes, I thank you.
And sunset means that there is, that's when this bill will no longer be effective. So some bills have sunset, some do not have sunset. So this one particular one does have sunset. Did anybody else, when you have about 3 minutes left and I'm gonna do my announcements, did anybody else have anything else that they want to say?
Yes, I would like to say that what is needed is we need for people to make sure that they are gearing up so they can get out and vote, because Mark Butler has to go. I did put in legislation asking the governor to remove him from office because he has to go. He must go. He have thousands of people's lives. Thousands and thousands of people have lost their homes, their cars, have lost their way of life at this point and don't know where to turn or where to go. And it does not faze him at all. He has no heart, and it is time for Mark Butler to go. He must go. So we need everybody that is listening on this call, make sure you have everything, all the IDs you need. Make sure you have everything that you need, because Mark Butler must go home. And we're going to have to come out and we're going to have to vote like we never voted before, because it is time for not only him to go, but for the rest of them to go too. It's time for them to go home. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sandra G. Scott. It could not have been said much more clearer and better. And that election is next year, so it's not this year. This year is your municipal elections that'll be taking place. But it's not too early to start getting prepared. And you all, everyone, and this is always what I tell people when it comes down to voting. If you've been affected by something, that's your motivation to go and vote. If you like not getting your unemployment claim and it was okay for it to take as long as it did, then don't go vote. Everything okay. Because see, when you vote people back in that have not done what their job supposed to do, what you're telling them as elected official, I approve you and I appreciate you not doing your job, so I'm going to re-elect you. So don't let them fool y'all coming next year. But with a lot of stuff, you need to look at their track record of what they've been doing and how it affected you. Leadership makes a difference. Leadership makes a difference. And it takes bold leadership to make decisions and be able to admit when you've done something wrong and then go to correct it. Don't keep blaming on everybody else, the federal government, on the House members, making it political. No, do your job. I even got to the point I told Kim, I said, Kim, we need a caravan to go to Carrollton, Georgia. And everybody who hadn't gotten their money, we're going to line up on the sidewalk and we're going to camp out there until we get our money. Of course, I think they got wind and started saying they're going to have the police to beef up around where he lived at. But that's how radical it had gotten to that particular point. I want to thank our guests, special guests this afternoon who took a lot of time out of their very busy schedule. Sandra, Representative Sandra G. Scott, Representative Viola Davis, Representative Kim Schofield, Chairwoman Rhonda Burnough. And I just usually leave this last part for those who want to look up what's going on with SB 156, because you can track it down. You can see who voted, how they voted. Go to legis.ga.gov. That's legis.ga.gov. And then click on the advanced search, click on Senate Bill, SB, and put in the number 156. And it'll bring that bill up and you can have fun reading all the information you want. And if you have any questions, contact your own state representative, your own state senator, and ask them questions about that bill if you don't understand it. But thank you, ladies, so very much. Our next show is going to be May the 3rd, because I do every other Monday at 4 p.m. I'm still debating on what my next topic is going to be. So if you have some show ideas that you like for me to bring on people to be able to talk about these different issues, you can email me at contact@ghostovall.com. Again, Georgia Youth Career Center, we're still kicking off our drive as far as making sure that people have access to career choices with training and career exploration. You can go to my website, www.gayouthcareercenter.com, to get more information. And I'll definitely be making some more announcements coming up real soon. Ladies, do you all have any event that you have? I know Representative Sandra G. Scott just had a feminine hygiene
drive.
Thank you.
Feminine hygiene drive going on, collecting feminine hygiene products.
Okay, so take maybe a minute to tell about that. Anybody else, if you have an upcoming event, definitely feel free to let us know.
Yes, I am collecting feminine hygiene products to May 1st. You can donate by Cash App, $ Sandra G. Scott, or you can have them dropped off to my house. You could just go online and order your feminine hygiene products and send them directly to me at 3489 Oakleaf Court, Rex, Georgia, 30273. I will be collecting up until May 1st. And the supplies, they will go to the young ladies here in Clayton and Henry County. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have? I know Kim got something. Representative Schofield got something coming up.
Well, Sandra G. Scott started the white flag ceremony in Clayton County and moved it on. And it's just honoring and recognizing those people who've lost their lives through the coronavirus. And we put white flags in the ground honoring them. So the next one is going to be held. I'm sponsoring that in on May 1st. From 10 to noon at City Hall, Main Street and City Hall in East Point. And we're going to be honoring those who've lost their lives due to the coronavirus and planting a white flag in their honor.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, we want to make sure that everybody knows that we used to do it on Tuesday and Thursday, but now we just do it on Thursday. We have the COVID-19 show. It's on Facebook, and you can log in by going to the Georgia House Democratic Caucus Facebook page. And we give a lot of information related to COVID and other things that are going on in Georgia.
All right, thank you.
I'll be having a town hall meeting this evening at 7 p.m. with other legislators, particularly that is organized by Senator Sally Harrell this evening for Senate District 40.
Okay, and what do they look up the information if they want to attend the town hall?
They can look on Senator Sally Harrell's Facebook page and get the link information.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ladies, so very much. And, you know, I always talk about me being an independent. I was a Democrat, decided to go to independent, but this goes to show you that it's not about the party. It's about the people. And I appreciate them trusting me enough to come on the show and talk about the work that they've been doing. And I enjoy and I continue to work with them and hopefully be able to bring them back on again. And even if it's something that you all are doing separately, you would like to come on the show, you're definitely more than welcome to come back. Thank you all for listening in on Issues and Answers. And we're going to be out of here. It's 5 o'clock. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and be safe.